My mom secretly baptized my baby against our wishes during a family visit. She turned the whole family against us and called social services when we cut contact with everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I need to share something that happened to my family 8 months ago, and honestly, I'm still processing it all. This story involves my mother, my newborn daughter, religious manipulation, and how one woman's inability to respect boundaries tore our entire family apart. My name is Rachel. I'm 28 years old, and I'm married to the most wonderful man, David. We've been together for 6 years, married for 3, and 8 months ago, we welcomed our beautiful daughter Emma into the world. Emma was planned, wanted, and absolutely adored by both of us. But this story isn't really about Emma. It's about my mother and how she decided that her religious beliefs were more important than our wishes as parents. Let me give you some background first. I grew up in an extremely religious household. My mother, Patricia, is what you might call a devout Catholic. And I mean devout. Church every Sunday, daily prayers, religious artwork covering every wall of the house, the whole 9 yards. My father passed away when I was 15, and after that, Mom's faith became even more intense. She threw herself into church activities, became heavily involved in various ministries, and basically made religion the center of her entire identity. Growing up, I went along with it because I was a kid and didn't have much choice. But as I got older, especially in college, I started questioning a lot of the beliefs I'd been raised with. I studied different religions, philosophy, and science, and gradually came to the conclusion that organized religion just wasn't for me. I don't consider myself an atheist exactly, but I'm definitely not religious in any traditional sense. When David and I started getting serious, one of the things I loved about him was that he shared similar views about religion. He was raised Methodist, but had also drifted away from organized religion as an adult. We both believe in being good people, treating others with kindness, and living ethical lives, but we don't feel the need for formal religious structure to do that. When we got engaged, Mom immediately started pressuring us about having a church wedding. She couldn't understand why we wanted a secular ceremony, and she made our entire engagement period stressful with her constant comments about how we were starting our marriage without God's blessing and how disappointed she was in our choices. We stood firm, had the wedding we wanted, and eventually Mom seemed to accept it. She attended the ceremony, smiled for photos, and I thought maybe she was finally learning to respect our decisions. Then I got pregnant. From the moment we announced the pregnancy, Mom became obsessed with our plans for the baby's spiritual upbringing. She constantly brought up baptism, asking when we were planning to welcome the baby into God's family. When we explained that we hadn't decided about baptism and wanted to let our child make their own religious choices when they were older, Mom went ballistic. She couldn't understand how we could condemn an innocent soul by not baptizing immediately. She talked about original sin, about the baby's soul being in danger, and about our responsibilities as Christian parents, despite the fact that we'd never claimed to be Christian parents. David and I had many conversations about this. We decided that we wanted to raise Emma with knowledge about different religions and belief systems, but we didn't want to make permanent religious decisions for her before she was old enough to understand what they meant. We felt that baptism was something she should choose for herself if and when she decided she believed in it. Mom did not take this well. She enlisted other family members to pressure us. My aunt called to talk sense into me. My cousin sent me articles about the importance of infant baptism. Even my grandmother, who's usually pretty laid back about these things, mentioned how concerned she was about the baby's spiritual welfare. The pressure was intense, but David and I held firm. We made it clear to everyone that this was our decision. to make as Emma's parents, and we asked them to respect our wishes. Emma was born in February, a perfect, healthy, beautiful baby girl. Those first few weeks were magical. The sleepless nights, the endless feedings, the incredible bond forming between the three of us. David was an amazing father right from the start. And I felt like we were building exactly the family we'd dreamed of. Mom came to visit when Emma was about 2 weeks old. She stayed for a week, helping with cooking and cleaning while I recovered from delivery. I was grateful for the help, and she seemed to be on her best behavior. She held Emma constantly, sang to her, and appeared to be a loving, supportive grandmother. But there were little things that bothered me. Mom kept making comments about how Emma needed protection and how babies were vulnerable to spiritual dangers. She talked about friends from her church who were praying for Emma's soul. When I asked her to stop making these comments, she'd apologize and change the subject. But I could tell she was still fixated on the baptism issue. One afternoon during Mom's visit, David had gone back to work for a few hours to catch up on some things, and I was desperately needed a nap. Emma had been fussy all night, and I was exhausted. Mom offered to watch her while I slept, and I gratefully accepted. I slept for about 3 hours, the longest stretch I'd had since Emma was born. When I woke up, I found Mom sitting in the living room with Emma, both of them looking peaceful. Mom said Emma had been an angel, that she'd fed her a bottle and changed her diaper, and that they'd just been having grandmother-granddaughter bonding time. I didn't think anything of it at the time. Mom seemed relaxed and happy. Emma was content, and I felt more rested than I had in weeks. The rest of Mom's visit went smoothly, and when she left, I actually felt like maybe we'd turned a corner in our relationship. About a month later, Mom called with some news that made my blood run cold. "Rachel, honey," she said, "I have something to tell you, and I hope you'll understand that I did it out of love." My heart immediately started racing. "What did you do, Mom?" "While I was visiting last month, I took Emma to see Father Martinez at St. Mary's. She's been baptized, sweetheart. Her soul is safe now. I literally couldn't breathe for a moment." "You did what?" "I baptized her. I couldn't stand the thought of anything happening to that precious baby while her soul was unprotected." "I know you're upset, but someday you'll thank me for this." I was shaking with rage. "Mom, you had absolutely no right to do that. That was you a decision to make, not yours. Rachel, I'm her grandmother, and I love her. Sometimes adults have to make hard decisions to protect children, even when their parents don't understand." The casual way she dismissed our authority as Emma's parents was infuriating. "You went behind our backs. You lied to us. You violated our trust and our explicit wishes." "I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you because I knew you'd overreact. And look, nothing bad happened. Emma is fine, and now she's protected by God's grace." I hung up on her and immediately called David at work. He came home within an hour, and we spent the rest of the evening trying to process what had happened. David was just as furious as I was, but he was also hurt. How could she think this was okay? He kept asking, how could she think she had the right to make this decision for our daughter? We called Mom back that evening. David got on the phone with her, and his voice was deadly calm in a way that meant he was absolutely livid. "Patricia," he said, "what you did was a complete violation of our rights as Emma's parents. You went behind our backs and performed a religious ceremony on our daughter without our knowledge or consent." Mom tried to defend herself. "David, I understand you're upset, but no." David interrupted. "There is no but. What you did was wrong, and it was a betrayal of our trust. We explicitly told you our wishes regarding Emma's religious upbringing, and you decided those wishes didn't matter." Mom started crying. "I just wanted to protect her. I couldn't bear the thought of something happening to an innocent baby. That wasn't your decision to make." I said, "You're her grandmother, not her parent. You don't get to override our choices because you disagree with them. The conversation went in circles. Mom kept insisting she'd done the right thing and that we'd understand someday. We kept trying to explain why her actions were a fundamental violation of our trust and authority as parents. Finally, David said, "Patricia, until you can acknowledge that what you did was wrong and apologize for it, we need some space. We won't be bringing Emma around you until we can trust that you'll respect our decisions as her parents." Mom was shocked. "You can't keep me away from my granddaughter. I love her. Love means respecting boundaries," I said. "You've shown that you don't respect us as parents. So we can't trust you with our daughter." We hung up, and that's when the real nightmare began. Within 24 hours, my phone was ringing constantly. My aunt, my cousins, my grandmother, everyone was calling to tell me how cruel and unreasonable I was being. Mom had apparently called everyone in the family and told them that we were keeping Emma away from her grandmother because of religious differences. But that wasn't how she framed it to them, according to the version they heard. We were punishing an old woman for caring about her granddaughter's spiritual welfare and being vindictive because she'd done something beautiful for the baby. She completely left out the part about going behind our backs, lying to us, and violating our explicit wishes. In her version, she was a loving grandmother being persecuted by cruel, godless children who didn't want their baby to have any connection to faith. My Aunt Lisa called me crying. "Rachel, how can you be so heartless? Your mother just wanted to make sure Emma was blessed by God. Why are you punishing her for loving your daughter?" When I explained what had actually happened, that Mom had secretly baptized Emma against our explicit wishes, Lisa's tone changed. "Well," she said, "maybe she should have told you first, but her heart was in the right place. You're being dramatic about this. It's not like she hurt the baby." That response was so typical of my family. Mom could do anything she wanted as long as her heart was in the right place, and anyone who objected was being dramatic or unreasonable. My cousin Jenny called and actually yelled at me, "Do you know how much you're hurting Mom? She's crying every day because you won't let her see Emma. All she did was have her baptized. It's not like she kidnapped her or something again." When I explained that Mom had gone behind our backs and violated our trust, Jenny dismissed it. "You're making a big deal out of nothing. Lots of grandparents baptize their grandchildren. It's normal." Even my grandmother, who I'd always thought was reasonable, called to mediate. But her idea of mediation was convincing me to forgive and forget, because family is more important than being right. "Your mother made a mistake," Grandma said, "but she was trying to do something good for Emma. Can't you just let it go?" "Grandma, she lied to us. She went behind our backs and performed a religious ceremony on our daughter. How is that okay?" Well, maybe she should have asked first, but there was always a but. No one in my family could just acknowledge that what Mom had done was wrong. There was always some excuse, some justification, some reason why I should just get over it. The pressure was constant. Every day, someone from my family was calling, texting, or showing up at our house to tell me how unreasonable I was being. They painted Mom as this heartbroken grandmother being kept away from her beloved granddaughter by vindictive parents who cared more about being right than about family harmony. David and I stood firm. We weren't asking for the impossible. We just wanted Mom to acknowledge that what she'd done was wrong and apologize for it. If she could do that, we'd be willing to work on rebuilding trust. But she refused. Instead of apologizing, Mom doubled down. She started posting on social media about how much she missed Emma, sharing old photos, and talking about how some people use children as weapons in family disputes. She never named us directly, but it was obvious who she was talking about. Her church friends rallied around her. They left comments on her posts about how they were praying for reconciliation and how sad it was that faithful Christians were being persecuted by their own families. Mom ate up the sympathy and support. Meanwhile, David and I were dealing with the constant stress of family drama while trying to care for a newborn. The phone calls and text messages never stopped. Family members would show up at our house unannounced, demanding to see Emma and trying to guilt us into forgiving Mom. It was exhausting and emotionally draining. We weren't asking for anything unreasonable, just an acknowledgement that Mom had overstepped and an apology for violating our trust. But apparently, that was too much to ask. About 3 months into this standoff, things escalated in a way I never could have imagined. I got a call from someone identifying herself as Mrs. Rodriguez from Child Protective Services. She said they'd received a report about potential neglect of a minor child and needed to schedule a home visit. My heart stopped. A report about what? Ma'am, I can't discuss the details over the phone, but we need to conduct a welfare check on your daughter, Emma. Can we schedule a time for a caseworker to visit your home? I was shaking when I hung up the phone. David came home from work early, and we spent the evening trying to figure out what could have prompted a CPS report. Our house was clean, Emma was healthy and well cared for, and we had no idea what anyone could have complained about. The caseworker, Mrs. Rodriguez, came to our house 2 days later. She was professional but thorough, asking questions about Emma's health, our living situation, our support system, and our ability to provide for her needs. Mrs. Anderson, she said, I have to ask, are you having any family conflicts or disputes that might affect your ability to care for Emma? That's when I knew. Did my mother file this report? Mrs. Rodriguez couldn't confirm who had made the report, but her expression told me everything I needed to know. Mum, the report alleges that you're isolating your daughter from family members who love her, and that you're creating an unstable environment due to ongoing family conflicts. I explained the entire situation, Mom's secret baptism, our decision to maintain boundaries until she apologized, and the constant harassment from family members. Mrs. Rodriguez listened carefully and took notes. Can you provide documentation of your daughter's medical care? She asked. I showed her Emma's pediatric records, vaccination records, and documentation of all her regular checkups. Emma was clearly healthy, well-fed, and properly cared for. Mrs. Rodriguez also interviewed David separately, observed us interacting with Emma, and thoroughly inspected our home. After about 2 hours, she seemed satisfied. Mr. and Mrs. Anderson, she said, based on my observation, Emma appears to be healthy, well cared for, and living in a safe, stable environment. I see no evidence of neglect or abuse, she explained. That she'd need to file a report, but that she would be recommending the case be closed with no further action required. However, she added, I do want to give you some advice. Family conflicts can be stressful, and that stress can sometimes affect children even when parents don't realize it. You might want to consider family counseling or mediation to resolve these issues. After she left, David and I sat in our living room holding Emma and crying. The fact that Mom had called CPS on us, had actually reported us as neglectful parents, was a betrayal beyond anything I could have imagined. She could have cost us our daughter, David said. If that caseworker had been less reasonable, if Emma had been sick that day, if our house had been messy, if any number of things had gone differently, they could have taken Emma away from us. That night, I called Mom. I was angrier than I'd ever been in my life. How dare you call CPS on US, I said without preamble. I don't know what you're talking about, Mom said, but her voice was defensive. Don't lie to me. We know it was you. You reported us to Child Protective Services because we won't let you see Emma. There was a long pause. Then Mom said, I was Worried about Emma. I haven't seen her in months. I don't know if you're taking proper care of her. You've seen photos. You know she's fine. You called CPS because you were angry that we won't give in to your demands. Rachel, you're keeping my granddaughter away from me because I did something beautiful for her. That's not normal behavior. I thought maybe if professionals talked to you, you'd realize how unreasonable you're being. The fact that she still couldn't see how wrong her actions were, both the original baptism and now the CPS report, was astounding. Mom, what you did could have destroyed our family. If they'd decided we were unfit parents, they could have taken Emma away from US. How could you risk that? Don't be dramatic. Rachel, I would never let anything bad happen to Emma. I just wanted professionals to help you see that you're making a mistake. That was the last conversation I ever had with my mother. The CPS case was officially closed a week later with no findings of neglect or abuse, but the damage to our family was permanent. I couldn't forgive Mom for the baptism, and I definitely couldn't forgive her for calling CPS and potentially putting Emma at risk. David and I decided to cut all contact with Mom. We blocked her number, blocked her on social media, and made it clear to other family members that we didn't want to hear about her or receive any messages from her. Most of my family sided with Mom. They said I was overreacting and being vindictive. My Aunt Lisa said I was destroying the family over nothing. My cousin Jenny said I was using Emma as a pawn and that I'd regret this someday. Only my Uncle Tom, Dad's brother, supported us. He called and said, Rachel, what your mother did was wrong. Both the baptism and the CPS call. You have every right to protect your family. It was validating to have at least one family member understand, but it was also heartbreaking to lose so many relationships over this. The hardest part was holidays. Christmas was awful. We spent it alone while my entire extended family gathered at Mom's house for their traditional celebration. I saw photos on social media of everyone together, and there were comments about how sad it was that Emma and I were missing from the family. But we weren't missing by choice. We'd been pushed out because we dared to set boundaries and expect them to be respected. Emma is 8 months old now. She's happy, healthy, and absolutely perfect. She doesn't know about the drama surrounding her birth or the family she's never met because of it. David and I have built a new support network of friends and chosen family who respect us as parents and support our decisions. Sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice. Maybe I should have just accepted Mom's apology, if she'd ever offered one, and moved on. Maybe family harmony was more important than being right about boundaries and respect. But then I think about what message that would have sent. If I'd given in after the baptism, what would Mom have done next? If I'd forgiven her for calling CPS, what boundary would she have crossed after that? Children learn what they live. I want Emma to grow up knowing that her boundaries matter, that her choices deserve respect, and that love doesn't mean tolerating behavior that hurts you. I want her to understand that sometimes protecting yourself and your values is more important than keeping the peace. Mom still tries to contact us occasionally through other family members or through cards sent to our house. She's never apologized for the baptism or acknowledged that it was wrong. She's never apologized for calling CPS. Instead, she continues to paint herself as the victim of cruel children who won't let her see her granddaughter. Maybe someday she'll understand what she did and why we made the choices we did. Maybe someday she'll offer a genuine apology and we can begin to rebuild our relationship. But until then, David, Emma, and I are building a life based on respect, honesty, and healthy boundaries. It's been hard. And it's been lonely sometimes, but it's also been peaceful. We don't have to constantly defend our parenting choices or worry about someone undermining our authority with our own daughter. We don't have to walk on eggshells or manage someone else's expectations about our families. Beliefs and values. Emma will grow up knowing that her parents put her well-being first, even when it was difficult. She'll know that we fought for her right to make her own choices about faith and spirituality. She'll know that love means respect, and that healthy relationships require healthy boundaries. That's worth more than maintaining toxic family relationships just for the sake of keeping everyone together. If you're dealing with family members who won't respect your boundaries as a parent, please know that you're not alone. It's hard to stand up to people you love, especially when they make you feel guilty or selfish for protecting your children. But your job as a parent is to keep your child safe and to raise them according to your values, not to manage other people's feelings or expectations. Sometimes love means saying no. Sometimes love means walking away, and sometimes protecting your child means sacrificing relationships that aren't healthy for your family. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone else who might be struggling with similar issues. Take care of yourselves and your families.